Every day, you make choices. Some are small: what to eat, when to speak, how to respond to a text. Others are life-changing: whether to pursue a dream, end a relationship, ask for help, or step into the unknown. And behind each of these choices is a quiet, persistent force: your mindset. Your mindset is the internal narrative that frames how you interpret your experiences. It's not just what you think, it's how you think. It colors your understanding of success and failure, shapes your confidence, and sets the tone for how you deal with challenge, change, and uncertainty. Most importantly, it influences whether you see life as something to endure or something to engage with. This audiobook is about cultivating a mindset that makes growth possible. Not just professional growth, but personal, emotional, relational, and creative growth. It's about developing the inner architecture that supports resilience, discipline, and meaningful change. The kind of mindset that allows you to face setbacks with strength instead of shame. The kind that sees effort as investment, not punishment. The growth mindset, as we'll explore, is more than just believing you can improve. It's a way of relating to the world and to yourself that turns difficulty into data, challenge into opportunity, and comparison into clarity. It is not wishful thinking. It is grounded in science, shaped by discipline, and forged through experience. Throughout this journey, we'll explore why many of us resist growth without even realizing it. We'll uncover the fears and beliefs that keep us stuck, and most importantly, we'll learn how to shift, not overnight, not perfectly, but intentionally, toward a way of thinking that unlocks our potential. You don't need to have everything figured out to start. In fact, that's exactly the point. You're allowed to begin from where you are, with your doubts, your scars, and your questions. Growth is not about being ready, it's about being willing. So take a deep breath, open your mind. This isn't just an audiobook. It's an invitation to think differently, live more fully, and discover what becomes possible when you stop asking, "Am I enough?" and start asking, "What can I become?" Let's begin. Chapter 1. Fixed versus Growth Mindset. At the heart of this topic are two fundamentally different beliefs: the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. A fixed mindset assumes that our intelligence, talents, and capabilities are innate and unchangeable. If you believe you're born with a certain amount of intelligence or talent and that's all you get, then success becomes about proving yourself. Every task is a test, and failure feels like a personal judgment. It means you're not smart, not capable, not enough. In contrast, the growth mindset embraces the belief that our basic abilities can be developed through effort, good strategies, and support from others. If you have a growth mindset, you understand that challenges are not threats, they're invitations. Failure isn't a reflection of your identity, it's feedback, information, a stepping stone toward improvement. Success becomes about progress, not perfection. This shift from proving to improving changes everything. Take the example of two students facing a complex math problem. The first says, "I'm just not good at math," and gives up. The second says, "This is hard, but I can learn how to solve it," and keeps trying. Over time, the second student improves, not because they started out smarter, but because they believed they could improve, and that belief shaped their actions. They studied more, asked more questions, and stayed engaged. The same dynamic applies in every area of life. In business, those with a growth mindset seek feedback, iterate, and adapt. In sports, they push through plateaus, focusing on training and development. In relationships, they're open to learning about communication and emotional growth. Even in creativity, a growth mindset fosters experimentation, resilience, and play. If you look beneath the surface of any lasting success story, you'll often find this mindset at work. It's what allows people to stick with their goals when progress is slow, to try again after setbacks, and to pursue mastery without being paralyzed by the fear of failure. So how do you know which mindset you're operating from? Start by observing your thoughts, especially during moments of difficulty. When you make a mistake, do you think, "I'm such a failure," or "What can I learn from this?" When someone else succeeds, do you feel threatened or inspired? When you face a challenge, do you avoid it to stay comfortable, or lean in and grow? The first step in developing a growth mindset is simply becoming aware. Listen to your internal dialogue, that voice narrating your experience. You can shape it. You can teach it to become your coach rather than your critic. And that doesn't happen overnight. You're not trying to flip a switch, you're building a muscle. You can start with small moments. When you find yourself saying, "I can't do this," add one word, "yet." That word turns a full stop into a comma. It tells your brain the story isn't over. Another practical step is to reframe failure. Rather than seeing it as a reflection of your identity, try seeing it as data. What did you try? What worked? What didn't? What might you do differently next time? This is the mindset of a scientist, an artist, an athlete, people who live and breathe iteration. You can also shift your focus from outcomes to effort. Outcomes are often out of your control: market conditions, other people's choices, luck. But effort is yours to own. When you celebrate effort, you reinforce the process that leads to growth. You reward persistence, not just perfection. Start to notice when your mind falls into fixed patterns. "I'm not creative. I'm not good with people. I've never been a leader." Ask yourself, is that true, or is it just familiar? Every skill can be practiced. Every mindset can be developed. But you have to give yourself permission to grow. It also helps to surround yourself with people who support that belief. People who value growth, who aren't threatened by mistakes, who challenge you to stretch. Growth is contagious. So is fear. Choose your influences with care. Over time, the growth mindset becomes not just a belief, but a way of being. It gives you the courage to try new things, the resilience to bounce back, and the humility to keep learning. You stop being defined by your failures or limited by your past. You become defined by your capacity to evolve. This mindset doesn't promise ease, but it offers meaning. It gives you a way to move through life that's grounded in possibility, not perfection. And it's available to you right now. Not when you've mastered something, not when you feel confident, but exactly where you are. Because the mindset isn't something you earn, it's something you choose. It's also something you reinforce with action. You don't just think your way into a growth mindset, you live your way into it. Every time you choose to try again, to ask for feedback, to learn something new, you are planting a seed. And if you keep watering those seeds with effort and intention, they begin to grow roots. Your beliefs grow stronger. Your habits grow deeper. Your identity begins to shift, not toward perfection, but toward possibility. Think of the people you admire. Chances are, what you admire most is not their talent, but their tenacity, their ability to rise after falling, their willingness to evolve, to stretch, to keep going. That's the power of a growth mindset in action. And it's a power you already have access to. So as we continue this journey together, ask yourself, what would it look like to commit to your growth? Not in bursts of inspiration, but in daily choices. What would it mean to redefine failure as feedback, discomfort as development, and effort as empowerment? Because at the end of the day, a growth mindset is not just about success, it's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't just believe in change but embodies it. This journey toward a growth mindset also includes redefining how we view talent. So often, we put natural ability on a pedestal. We celebrate prodigies and talk about people as if they were born for it. And while natural aptitude can give someone a head start, it's never the whole story. What truly separates those who thrive from those who stall is how they respond to challenges, how they persist, and how they engage with the process of growth. Think about the artists whose first works were clumsy, the entrepreneurs who failed before they succeeded, the athletes who didn't make the team the first time. Their talent may have been part of the equation, but it was their mindset that carried them through. They chose to keep learning, keep showing up, and keep trying when it would have been easier to walk away. They didn't wait to be great to start. They started so they could become great. This distinction matters, especially when we're tempted to compare ourselves to others. It's easy to look at someone else's success and assume they're simply more talented or lucky. But comparison usually skips the struggle. We don't see the hours of practice, the rejection, the self-doubt. We see the highlight reel, not the behind-the-scenes work. And if we're not careful, we let that distorted picture convince us we're not capable when, in truth, we're just at a different stage in our own process. A growth mindset invites us to stop comparing and start investing. Investing in effort, in curiosity, in patience. It teaches us that mastery is not a destination, it's a direction, one that is always available, as long as we're willing to take the next step. And here's another truth. Developing a growth mindset doesn't mean you'll always feel confident. In fact, some of the most important growth happens when you feel uncomfortable, when you're not sure you can do it, when doubt whispers in your ear. That's not a sign to stop, it's a signal that you're in the territory where growth actually lives. Because confidence is often the result of doing hard things, not the requirement to begin them. So the next time you're faced with something unfamiliar or difficult, pause. Notice the voice in your head. If it says, "I can't," respond with curiosity instead of criticism. Ask, "What can I try? What can I learn from this? Who can help me grow?" That's the mindset shift. From fear to possibility, from fixed to fluid, from stuck to evolving. This shift won't make everything easier, but it will make everything more meaningful. Because when you stop defining yourself by what you already know and start defining yourself by what you're willing to learn, you open up a whole new world of potential. And that's where the real journey begins. Chapter 2. Why we resist growth. If a growth mindset holds the key to unlocking potential, why doesn't everyone lean into it with open arms? Why do so many people, even those who believe in personal development, continue to resist the very process that could transform their lives? The answer is both simple and profound. Growth is uncomfortable, and as human beings, we are wired to avoid discomfort. Our brains are designed for survival. They prefer the familiar, the predictable, the controllable. Growth, by contrast, is none of those things. It demands uncertainty, vulnerability, and change. It often asks us to walk away from what's known in pursuit of something that isn't guaranteed. And so, even when we want to grow, we often find ourselves pulling back, hesitating, delaying, or even sabotaging our own progress. This resistance doesn't mean you're broken or lazy. It means you're human. Let's start by understanding the forms resistance can take. It doesn't always show up as loud refusal. Often, it appears quietly in procrastination, in perfectionism, in distraction. You might tell yourself you'll start when you're ready, or when things calm down, or once you feel more confident. But deep down, it's not the timing that's the issue, it's the fear of what growth might demand from you. Growth threatens the ego. It asks us to become beginners again, to not know, to risk failure. It can challenge our identity. If you've spent years thinking of yourself as not athletic, or not smart, or not creative, it can feel disorienting, even threatening to try on a new narrative. Who are you if that old story no longer defines you? And yet, holding on to those limiting stories offers a false comfort. It may feel safer to stay within the identity you've always known, even if that identity keeps you stuck. But that safety is a cage, not a refuge. It protects you from failure, yes, but also from growth, from meaning, and from becoming more fully alive. Another reason we resist growth is because we confuse comfort with happiness. We think if something is familiar, it must be right. But familiarity isn't the same as fulfillment. You might be used to feeling stressed, or anxious, or overlooked. That doesn't mean you're meant to stay there. Just because a pattern is comfortable doesn't mean it's healthy. Just because it's known doesn't mean it's right. To grow is to break those patterns, to lean into discomfort, not for its own sake, but because it's the path to something better. It's the necessary tension of transformation. Think about a muscle. For it to grow, it must be challenged. You lift a heavier weight than you're used to, and the muscle tears just slightly. Then, it repairs itself stronger than before. The discomfort isn't damage, it's development. The same principle applies to your mindset. If you only operate within what you already know, you never expand. You never evolve. Growth requires micro-tears to your comfort zone. And yes, that can be painful. But it's the pain of progress, not punishment. Let's look at another reason people resist growth: the fear of what they might lose. Growth often requires change, and change threatens what we've built around us. Relationships may shift, routines may need to be disrupted, old habits may no longer fit. And sometimes, we resist growth, not because we don't believe in it, but because we're afraid it will cost us something we're not ready to let go of. For example, someone might want to become more assertive at work, but they fear how their colleagues might respond. Someone else might want to start a business, but they're afraid of what their family will say if it fails. In these cases, the barrier to growth isn't skill, it's fear of social consequence. The fear of disappointing others or of being seen differently can be more paralyzing than any technical challenge. This is where values come in. When you're clear on your core values, you can weigh the discomfort of growth against the cost of staying stagnant. If your value is freedom, you might be willing to risk temporary instability for long-term autonomy. If your value is authenticity, you might be willing to be misunderstood in order to be true to yourself. Resistance doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes it's a signal to pause, reflect, and recommit. Sometimes it's simply your nervous system saying, "This is new and I'm scared." That's not a red light, it's an invitation to slow down, but not to give up. What helps us move through resistance? First, honesty. Name it. Say, "I'm scared." Say, "I'm doubting myself." Say, "I feel stuck." Bring it into the light. Resistance thrives in silence. The moment you speak it, you take back your power. Second, bring curiosity. Instead of judging your resistance, ask questions. Where is this coming from? What am I protecting? What would happen if I did this anyway? Curiosity creates space for change. Third, start small. Big growth doesn't require big leaps. It requires small, consistent action. A 10-minute workout. One uncomfortable conversation. A few pages written. A single new thought practiced daily. Growth compounds quietly. Don't underestimate what small steps can lead to. And fourth, seek support. Growth doesn't have to be lonely. Find people who understand what you're trying to do. Talk to friends who believe in you. Work with a coach or mentor if you can. Read books that challenge you. Listen to voices that remind you of who you're becoming, not who you've been. The truth is, you are capable of more than you think. But capability without commitment stays dormant. A seed can have all the potential in the world, but unless it's planted and watered, it doesn't grow. So if you're feeling resistance, know this. It doesn't mean you're not ready. It means you're right on time. Growth isn't a straight path. It loops and spirals. It includes setbacks and doubts. But every time you choose to keep going, you reinforce a new belief, not just that growth is possible, but that it's part of who you are. In the next chapter, we'll move from mindset to movement. We'll talk about how to set goals and build habits that support your growth, not as an idea, but as a lived reality. But before we go there, let's pause. Ask yourself, where am I resisting growth right now? What would it mean to choose courage over comfort just for today? What part of me is ready to evolve, if only I'd let it? Because you don't need to wait for the fear to disappear. You only need to decide that your future is worth walking toward, even with resistance in your pocket. And it is. And here's something essential to remember. Resistance doesn't vanish forever. It evolves. Each time you grow, each time you step into a new version of yourself, a new layer of resistance may rise to meet you. That doesn't mean you're backsliding. It means you're playing at a new level. With every expansion, your comfort zone stretches, and with it, your edges shift. Think of it like hiking a mountain. At the start, the climb is steep and unfamiliar. You doubt your footing, your legs burn, your breath is short. But as you keep going, something shifts. You begin to trust your steps. You get stronger. The view opens up. Then you turn a corner and realize there's more mountain ahead. And again, the resistance whispers, "Are you sure you can do this?" But by now, you know that voice. You've heard it before, and you know what it really means. You're about to grow again. This is why consistency matters more than confidence. You won't always feel certain. You won't always feel brave. But you can always take the next small step. Growth doesn't require that you feel ready. It requires that you stay willing. And willingness is something you can practice. You practice it when you say yes to the things that stretch you. You practice it when you take the risk to speak your truth. You practice it when you keep going, even when progress feels slow. You practice it when you stop running from discomfort and start listening to what it's trying to teach you. Over time, this practice builds something deeper than momentum. It builds identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids hard things and start seeing yourself as someone who meets them. You become a person who chooses growth, not just once, but repeatedly. Not just when it's easy, but when it's necessary. That is what rewires your mindset. Not just hearing about growth, or thinking about it, or even believing in it, but acting on it. Living it. Choosing it, again and again, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. And when you do that, something beautiful begins to happen. The resistance doesn't disappear, but it stops defining you. The fear doesn't vanish, but it stops controlling you. You begin to realize, I can feel scared and still move forward. I can feel uncertain and still act with intention. I can be unfinished and still worthy of progress. This is the heart of a growth mindset. Not perfection, but participation. Not the absence of doubt, but the refusal to let doubt win. Not a life without fear, but a life led by courage. In the next chapter, we'll turn this awareness into action. We'll look at how to design habits and environments that support your evolution, and how to align your actions with the person you are becoming. Because growth isn't just a belief, it's a behavior, and you already have everything you need to begin. All that's left is the choice. Will you? Chapter 3. The Power of Yet. There's a small word that carries massive weight when it comes to developing a growth mindset. Yet. This single word has the power to change how you view yourself, your limitations, and your potential. It turns a statement of defeat into a declaration of possibility. When you say, I can't do this, you close a door. But when you say, I can't do this yet, you leave it open. You acknowledge the current struggle while keeping space for future growth. This is not just a linguistic trick, it's a mindset shift. It reflects a belief that ability is not fixed, that progress is always possible, and that effort is worthwhile. Think about the last time you gave up on something quickly. Maybe you were learning a new skill, coding, playing an instrument, public speaking. You stumbled, and your inner voice might have said, I'm just not cut out for this. That's the fixed mindset talking. But imagine if you had instead said, I'm not good at this yet. That tiny change reframes the entire experience. The power of yet lies in its ability to foster resilience. When you view setbacks as part of a longer journey, you're more likely to persist. You don't take failure personally, you take it as part of learning. And that mindset fuels continued effort, which in turn leads to real growth. This concept is especially powerful in education and parenting. When teachers or parents encourage children with phrases like, "You haven't mastered this yet," they send the message that ability is something that develops over time. It removes shame and introduces hope. The same applies to self-talk. Treat yourself as you would a growing learner, not as someone who should already be perfect. The yet mindset also encourages curiosity. If you're not good at something yet, what would it take to improve? What strategies could you try? Who could you ask for help? It turns a fixed problem into an open-ended question. And those questions are the seeds of innovation and personal evolution. Importantly, yet does not mean pretending something is easy. It's not about minimizing difficulty, it's about honoring the process. Saying yet doesn't erase struggle, but it places that struggle in context. It acknowledges that learning takes time, effort, and patience. There are, of course, real limitations in life. Not every goal will be achievable at every moment, but the mindset of yet helps distinguish between what's currently out of reach and what's permanently impossible. Most of the time, our limits are not absolute, they are circumstantial. Yet helps us stay open to the possibility of change. It also challenges our relationship with time. We live in a culture obsessed with speed, quick results, instant gratification, fast success. But mastery is slow. Excellence is cumulative. The mindset of yet embraces this reality. It tells you that it's okay to be in process, to not arrive immediately, to learn as you go. The path to any meaningful goal is rarely linear. There will be moments of frustration, confusion, even regression, but the yet mindset keeps you anchored. It reminds you that today's struggle is not the final word. You are allowed to be a work in progress. If you start integrating this simple word into your self-talk, you'll begin to notice subtle but powerful shifts. You'll become more patient with yourself. You'll take more risks, knowing that failure is not final. You'll embrace feedback as guidance rather than judgment. You'll persist not because the journey is easy, but because the goal is worth it. And most of all, you'll begin to believe in your capacity to grow. Not someday, not once you've proven yourself, but now, because yet makes room for progress. It gives you permission to begin again. Sometimes the idea of yet feels too small to counter the weight of self-doubt, especially when we've spent years reinforcing limiting beliefs. We may carry stories we've told ourselves for decades, stories inherited from childhood, school experiences, early failures, or societal expectations. I'm not a leader. I'm not athletic. I'm not smart enough for that. These statements might seem factual because we've rehearsed them so often, but they're really just snapshots, moments frozen in time, not the full story. This is where the yet mindset becomes not just a statement, but a rebellion against our own inner narratives. It's the conscious choice to rewrite the script, to look at a limiting belief and say, that may have been true once, or maybe it never really was, but even if it was, it doesn't have to stay that way. By embracing yet, you reclaim authorship of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone in motion, in transformation, not someone locked into traits, but someone expanding into new abilities, new understanding, and new levels of resilience. It's important to be honest. This kind of self-redefinition isn't always comfortable. Growth rarely is. In fact, one of the paradoxes of the growth mindset is that you have to accept discomfort as a sign you're on the right path. If you're stretching, you'll feel some resistance. If you're changing, you'll likely face doubt, both internal and external. People around you might not always understand your new mindset. They might say, "You've never done that before," or "That's just not like you." And they may mean well. But even well-meaning people can project their own fears or fixed mindsets onto us. That's why it's so important to cultivate an inner voice that's louder than the voices around you. When you hear doubt from others or from yourself, return to the power of yet. Use it as your anchor. Say, "They may not see it in me yet, but I'm still becoming." That's enough. This mindset also redefines what it means to be successful. In a culture that prizes instant results and external validation, yet helps you shift the focus back to progress, not perfection. You start to celebrate effort, improvement, curiosity. You become more interested in how far you've come than in how far you still have to go. Take a moment to reflect on something you once thought you couldn't do. Maybe it was learning to ride a bike, speak a new language, navigate a relationship, or master a work skill. At some point, it felt impossible, but eventually, with time and effort, you did it. That's evidence of your capacity to grow, and a reminder that the word yet has already lived in you, even if you didn't name it that way. Now imagine what else might be possible if you applied that same mindset forward. Where in your life have you decided you've already reached your limit? Where are you holding back because you think it's too late, or you're too behind, or it's just not for you? Ask yourself honestly, is it truly impossible, or is it just not true yet? The truth is, most of what we think is impossible is really just unfamiliar. We confuse difficulty with destiny. But the yet mindset invites us to sit in that unfamiliar space and stay open, to resist the urge to label ourselves too soon, to hold space for what's still forming, and that space is where real transformation begins. As you move forward, practice integrating yet into your daily language, not just in your thoughts, but in your conversations. Speak it aloud. Teach it to your children, your team, your friends. Create a culture around you where potential is not just imagined, but expected, where people are encouraged to grow, and where setbacks are met with patience, not panic. Because the more you live with the yet mindset, the more you inspire it in others. You become a model of what's possible, not through perfection, but through persistence. And that's the heart of all growth. Not arriving at some final version of yourself, but committing to the process of becoming again and again, day by day, moment by moment. So don't wait until you're confident. Don't wait until it's easy. Begin with where you are, with what you have, and trust in what you can become. You might not be there yet, but you are on your way. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to turn this mindset into specific practices, daily rituals, routines, and habits that reinforce your growth. But for now, remember, you don't have to be there yet. You only have to be on the way. Chapter 4. Applying growth in everyday life. The growth mindset, as a concept, is powerful, but its real magic happens in application. It's one thing to believe you can grow. It's another thing entirely to live that belief out, day after day, especially when life throws obstacles in your path. Chapter 4 is about bringing theory into action. It's about what it looks like to live the growth mindset, not just think about it. Let's begin where you are right now. Think about your everyday life, work, relationships, health, learning, personal goals. How do you respond when you make a mistake? When someone gives you feedback? When you hit a wall in your progress? These moments are the proving grounds of a growth mindset. They're opportunities to either shut down or lean in. Take your work life, for example. Maybe you're trying to learn a new system, take on a leadership role, or break through a plateau. The fixed mindset will whisper, "You're not cut out for this," or "Everyone else is doing better." The growth mindset will ask, "What can I learn here?" or "What's one thing I can try differently today?" It might not make the challenge easier, but it makes it meaningful. You shift from feeling like a victim of circumstance to an active participant in your own development. The same mindset can transform how you approach feedback. Instead of seeing criticism as an attack, you start to view it as data, as guidance. Sure, it still might sting, but beneath the sting you can ask, is there something here that could help me get better? You begin to detach your worth from being right or perfect, and instead attach it to growth. In relationships, the growth mindset helps you stay curious. When conflict arises, instead of defaulting to blame or defense, you begin to ask questions. What am I not seeing? How can I communicate more clearly? What's my role in this? This doesn't mean taking responsibility for things that aren't yours. It means staying open, humble, and committed to mutual understanding. Over time, this creates deeper trust and stronger connections. With health and personal habits, the growth mindset is a powerful ally. Maybe you're working on fitness, nutrition, sleep, or mental health. Inevitably, there will be setbacks. You'll skip a workout. You'll eat the thing you said you wouldn't. You'll fall back into old patterns. A fixed mindset sees these moments as proof that you'll never change. But the growth mindset reminds you, this is just one moment. You can start again. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about returning over and over to what matters. And here's the truth most people overlook. The growth mindset isn't just for big goals. It's for the ordinary, daily grind. It's for the Monday mornings when you feel stuck, the small conversations that test your patience, the moments when no one's watching. Growth doesn't wait for the perfect opportunity. It happens in the choices you make when the stakes feel low, because those choices shape your identity over time. Let's get practical. One of the most effective ways to apply the growth mindset daily is to build simple reflection habits. At the end of the day, ask yourself, what did I learn today? Where did I struggle? And what did it teach me? What's one thing I want to improve tomorrow? These questions don't require hours of journaling, just a few honest moments. Over time, they train your brain to look for progress, not just results. Another way to embed growth is by shifting your language. Pay attention to the words you use. Instead of, I failed, try, I learned. Instead of, I can't, try, I haven't, yet. Instead of, this is too hard, try, this is challenging me to grow. Your words shape your mindset. They influence how you interpret experience. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you believe in. You can also surround yourself with growth-minded people. That doesn't mean cutting off anyone who doubts you, but it does mean being intentional about your influences. Spend time with those who challenge you to think bigger, take risks, and stay accountable. Read books, listen to podcasts, join communities where the culture supports growth. Let that energy reinforce your own. Technology can also support your mindset, if used wisely. Use apps or tools that help you track progress. Set reminders that prompt reflection. Create digital spaces that uplift rather than drain you. Remember, growth doesn't happen in isolation, it's shaped by environment. Make your environment one that nudges you forward. Importantly, applying growth in everyday life means giving yourself grace. You will slip. You will revert to old patterns. You will have days when the fixed mindset takes the wheel. That's okay. The point is not to be perfect, it's to notice and come back. Each time you realign with growth, you strengthen your capacity to keep going. And here's something else to remember. Growth isn't always loud. It's not always marked by breakthroughs or applause. Sometimes it's quiet, invisible. It's in the way you choose not to quit today, the way you listen with more patience, the way you show up when you don't feel like it. Don't discount those moments. That's the work. That's the mindset in motion. Think of growth as a muscle. You don't build it with one workout. You build it with consistency. Reps, repetition, day by day. That's why applying a growth mindset is less about intensity and more about integration. How do you weave this way of thinking into your routines, your reactions, your relationships? How do you make it your default lens, not just in the highs, but in the lows? It begins with commitment, a decision to keep showing up, to keep learning, to keep choosing growth over comfort. You won't always get it right, but you will get better. And that's the point. So as you move into your day, ask yourself, how can I practice the growth mindset in this moment? What would it look like to treat this task, this person, this challenge as an opportunity to grow? Because growth isn't a destination, it's a daily choice. One thought, one word, one action at a time. In the next chapter, we'll look at how to navigate obstacles, internal and external, that threaten to pull you back into fixed thinking. But for now, remember this. You have the ability to apply what you believe, to live your growth, not just imagine it. And that's where transformation begins. Growth becomes even more powerful when it's shared. Talk about your journey with others, whether it's a friend, a mentor, a team, or an online group. Sharing your experience helps reinforce it. It brings accountability and opens space for reflection. Sometimes, someone else's breakthrough will remind you of your own capacity. Other times, your vulnerability will be the mirror someone else needs to see themselves more clearly. Try incorporating small acts of courage each day. Speak up when it's uncomfortable. Ask a question even if you feel unsure. Try something you might fail at. These moments might seem small, but they're how you stretch your capacity. They're your daily reps. And the more you practice leaning into discomfort with curiosity rather than fear, the more resilient and confident you become. Another powerful practice is visualizing your progress. Not just the end result, but the process. Picture yourself learning, struggling, adjusting, and showing up again. See the work, not just the win. This builds emotional familiarity with effort. It sets realistic expectations and reminds you that growth is a journey, not a moment. As you grow, celebrate the milestones, but don't idolize them. The real success is found in the decision to keep going. Celebrate effort, celebrate learning, celebrate persistence. When you reward the process, not just the outcome, you create a sustainable foundation for long-term growth. Lastly, be kind to yourself. Growth includes setbacks. There will be days when you doubt your ability, when you slip into old patterns, when progress feels invisible. In those moments, return to the truth. You are capable of learning. You are allowed to begin again. You are not stuck, you are in motion. And that's the beauty of the growth mindset. It's not about being the best, it's about becoming better, bit by bit, day by day. By choosing to show up, to reflect, to learn, and to act, you're already doing the work. Let that be enough. Let that be the win. Chapter 5. Redefining success. Success. It's a word we hear constantly, but rarely stop to define for ourselves. Often, our ideas about success are shaped by culture, by comparison, and by outdated narratives that no longer serve who we are or who we want to become. But if we're serious about living with a growth mindset, then we must be willing to examine and, if necessary, redefine what success really means. In a fixed mindset world, success is about being better than others. It's about proving your intelligence, your talent, your worth. It's measured in trophies, titles, and approval. This kind of success is fragile. It demands constant validation, and it leaves little room for mistakes, exploration, or reinvention. The growth mindset redefines success, not as a destination, but as a direction. Not as perfection, but as progression. Not as a static achievement, but as ongoing development. In this mindset, success is the act of showing up, of trying, of learning, of growing. It's internal before it becomes external. Think about a time when you tried something new and failed. Maybe it was launching a project, learning a language, or starting a fitness journey. If you viewed that experience solely through the fixed lens, you might say, "I failed. I wasn't good enough. I should have never tried." But from a growth perspective, you might say, "I didn't get the outcome I wanted, but I learned. I showed up. I discovered what to do differently next time." In the second view, the experience still holds value. It still counts. This shift is not about lowering standards. It's about expanding them. It's about including the process in the definition of success. When success includes effort, adaptation, and persistence, more people see themselves as capable. More people stay in the game, and that alone increases the odds of achievement. There's also a deeper emotional impact to redefining success. When you stop chasing someone else's version of success, you begin to connect with your own. You start asking, what matters to me? What kind of life do I want to live? What would feel like meaningful success for me? These questions shift your attention from status to substance, from image to integrity, from fear to fulfillment. Redefining success also invites you to honor your season of life. There are times when success is launching a business or hitting a career milestone, and there are times when success is healing, resting, learning how to set boundaries, or care for a loved one. The growth mindset reminds you that success isn't one size fits all. It's deeply personal, and it changes. A powerful practice for internalizing this shift is to write your own definition of success, not the one you inherited, not the one you think sounds impressive, but the one that feels honest. Maybe success, for you, is being courageous, or consistent, or creative. Maybe it's waking up with peace in your heart, or going to bed knowing you lived with integrity. Once you have this definition, use it as a compass. Let it guide your decisions, your commitments, your energy. When an opportunity arises, ask, does this align with my definition of success? If it doesn't, it's okay to say no. That's not failure. That's self-leadership. Living with a growth mindset means accepting that success is not linear. It's a winding path, full of experiments and iterations. It requires patience, curiosity, resilience. It requires letting go of the fantasy of constant upward progress and embracing the reality of ebb and flow. It also means celebrating progress, not just results. The small wins, the honest tries, the act of continuing. Because when you look back, it won't just be the big achievements that define your story, it will be the daily choices you made to grow, despite fear, despite uncertainty, despite obstacles. Success can also be measured by how well we stay true to our principles under pressure. It's easy to stick to your values when things are going smoothly, but what about when you're under stress? When money is tight? When other people doubt your path? Success, in those moments, is choosing integrity over ease. It's doing what aligns with your core beliefs, even when the world offers tempting shortcuts. In many ways, the people we admire most aren't those who climbed the ladder the fastest, but those who did it their way authentically, consistently, and with heart. They remind us that success doesn't require sacrificing ourselves. In fact, the more we stay rooted in our truth, the more likely we are to create something sustainable and meaningful. It's also important to consider how we define success across different domains of life. Professional success might look very different from personal success. For one person, a successful career could mean climbing the corporate ladder. For another, it could mean running a small business with flexibility and freedom. Personal success might mean cultivating deep friendships, raising kind children, or learning to love oneself. The key is to avoid copy-pasting someone else's metrics onto your life. Let's not forget that comparison is the thief of joy and also of clarity. When we measure ourselves against others, we often end up chasing goals that were never ours to begin with. Redefining success means stepping out of that race. It means designing a life that reflects your unique values, strengths, and dreams. And it means trusting that your definition is enough. Take time regularly to revisit your version of success. Reflect on whether your current path is aligned with what you truly want. Make adjustments as needed. Be willing to pivot. Success isn't a straight line. It's a living, evolving reflection of your purpose in motion. So, take a moment. Ask yourself, what does success mean to me now? What might it mean tomorrow? How can I honor that meaning with the way I live, work, and show up today? Understand, too, that redefining success doesn't mean settling. It means elevating your standard to something deeper. It's about creating a life where achievement and fulfillment coexist, where you are not just ticking boxes, but living your truth. It's not about shrinking your dreams, it's about making sure they're truly yours. As you grow, your definition of success will likely evolve, and that's a sign of progress. What once felt important may no longer hold weight. What once seemed impossible might now feel within reach. The ability to reassess and redefine your goals is not a weakness, it's a strength. It means you're listening. It means you're adapting. It means you're honoring the truth of who you are becoming. And in a world that constantly tries to tell you what success should look like, your ability to define it for yourself is one of your greatest powers. Own it, honor it, and let it guide you forward. In the next chapter, we'll look at how this redefined version of success connects to your daily habits and long-term vision. But for now, know this: you are allowed to grow your own way, to measure success on your terms, and to let that definition evolve as you do. That is the freedom of the growth mindset, and it is yours to claim. And claiming that freedom begins with trust in your own process, in your pace, in your unfolding. It's tempting to look around and feel behind, to see others who seem further along and question whether you're doing enough. But success aligned with growth isn't about arriving faster. It's about arriving fully, with clarity, with character, with your whole self intact. This is where a deeper truth reveals itself. Not all progress is visible. Some of the most meaningful growth happens quietly, internally, without applause. It's the progress of becoming less reactive, of showing yourself kindness, of staying steady through a storm, of choosing a better response than you would have last year. These changes may not earn trophies, but they reflect the transformation that matters most. It's also why patience is such a vital part of redefining success. Growth takes time, often much more time than we wish it did. We plant seeds and want instant fruit, but real success, the kind rooted in purpose and authenticity, requires season after season of showing up, watering, pruning, trusting that something is taking root even when results aren't immediate. Patience also means allowing space for setbacks. There will be weeks when you feel off track, discouraged, or disconnected. That's not failure, it's part of being human. What defines success in these moments is not how perfect your path looks, but how gently you bring yourself back. Back to your values, back to your purpose, back to the small steps that move you forward. It's here that grace becomes a companion to growth, a reminder that you don't have to earn your worth through flawless execution, that you're allowed to be in progress, that you can both hold high standards for yourself and offer compassion when you fall short. Grace is not about lowering the bar, it's about lifting the weight of perfectionism so you can keep moving more freely toward what matters. As you integrate this new definition of success into your daily life, you may notice something else. You start celebrating differently. You celebrate showing up when you didn't feel like it. You celebrate the courage it takes to say no. You celebrate resilience, not just results. You begin to honor the wins that no one else sees, but you know took everything. This redefinition also changes how you view others. You stop seeing people as competitors and start seeing them as fellow travelers. Their path is theirs, yours is yours, and there is space for both. When you no longer need to prove your worth through comparison, collaboration becomes easier. Empathy becomes more natural, and relationships deepen because they're built not on status, but on shared humanity. Ultimately, a redefined success is about coming home to yourself. It's about removing the masks, the expectations, the noise, and asking, what do I value? What kind of life do I want to live? And what does it look like, day by day, to live that life with intention? That kind of success won't always be flashy, but it will be deeply fulfilling, and it will be yours. So as you close this chapter, carry this with you. Success isn't something you chase, it's something you define, something you build from the inside out. Let your growth guide it, let your values shape it, and let your heart recognize it when it arrives not just at the finish line, but in every step along the way. A growth mindset is not a destination you reach. It's not something you achieve once and for all. like a trophy on a shelf. It's a way of being a commitment to seeing life as a continual process of learning, unlearning, stretching, and evolving. To live with a growth mindset is to adopt the identity of a student of life. And students, by nature, don't need to have all the answers. Their power comes from curiosity, from asking questions, from showing up again and again with the willingness to learn. When you truly internalize that idea, the pressure to be perfect starts to dissolve. You begin to see that your worth isn't tied to your current performance, but to your ongoing participation in your own becoming. This mindset offers a radical but deeply empowering truth. You are not finished. You are not fixed. You are still in process. And that's not a weakness, it's your greatest strength. When you embrace this truth, failure no longer becomes something to fear. It becomes feedback. Rejection becomes redirection. Delay becomes preparation. Every experience, whether triumphant or painful, becomes a teacher. That's what it means to become a student of life. You stop needing certainty, and instead you start cultivating capacity. You'll begin to notice a shift, not just in how you pursue goals, but in how you treat yourself. You'll replace self-criticism with self-reflection. You'll stop asking, "Why am I not there yet?" and start asking, "What am I learning here?" You'll stop defining success by how flawless your path looks, and instead start measuring it by how fully you engage with the journey. You will still face resistance. There will be days when doubt speaks louder than belief, when fear disguises itself as logic, when you question whether the effort is worth it. That's normal. But the growth mindset reminds you that discomfort is not a stop sign. It's often a signal that you're expanding beyond what's familiar. And here's something powerful. You don't need to make huge, sweeping changes all at once. The real transformation happens in small, consistent moments when you choose to try again after failing. When you reach out instead of retreating, when you speak kindly to yourself, when it would be easier to criticize. Little by little, these moments stack. They shape your habits, which shape your actions, which shape your identity. You don't become someone new overnight. You grow into it through conscious choice, through daily practice, through an ongoing willingness to evolve. There's freedom in this approach. Because when growth, not perfection, is your focus, you stop fearing messiness. You stop waiting for ideal conditions. You start living, and in doing so, you give yourself permission to dream bigger, love deeper, lead braver, and live more honestly. You also begin to recognize growth in others. You start celebrating their progress, not just their results. You start seeing potential where others might see problems. This is how growth becomes contagious. It doesn't just change your life, it changes the lives around you. So as we close this audiobook, remember, a growth mindset is not about chasing an unattainable ideal. It's about honoring the truth that you are capable of change, capable of learning, capable of becoming more. Not someday, but now. Ask yourself, where am I being invited to grow? What lesson is life offering me today? How can I step forward, even if it's just a little, with courage and openness? Because the journey of growth never truly ends. There's always more to discover, more to give, more to understand about yourself, about others, about the world. Keep going, keep learning, keep becoming. Not because you're broken and need fixing, but because you're whole and still unfolding. This is your life. Make it a living classroom. Fill it with wonder, effort, and heart. You are not behind. You are becoming. And the best is still ahead.